Hey guys, and welcome to this little video. Just a gaming topic that has been on my mind here recently. It's not going to be as necessarily as negative as maybe the title of the video would suggest. I'm not here to talk about DLC and microtransactions and always connected and all that kind of bullshit. I've talked about it enough on other videos on my channel. This is rather to talk about a different kind of angle on gaming stuff. And that's, now that I've had my PS4 for about 4 months, getting close to it, now that I've played a handful of games, whether I've dabbled or I've completed them, I've had a chance to sort of form an opinion about gaming in general on the new generation, of 2016 as opposed to 1996 or 1986. And yes, maybe this is a little bit of an old man raging about the new fandangled stuff, but I think it holds some water a little bit. Of course, this is all subjective, or objective, whichever one. Basically, it's all down to personal opinion, and it's all down to your gameplay style and your preferences. But I think that so far, quite a few of the games that I've played and gotten into, and going back to the PS3 and the 360, but especially since I've gotten the PS4, these games lack what I call the journey. And what the journey is that whole emotional as well as actual journey that a game takes you on that I think is lost in a lot of the kinds of games that are big these days. And the perpetrators that I wrote down on something, but I don't even think I have it here with me, but the perpetrators that I really honed in on were games like Assassin's Creed, Far Cry, to an extent a game like Dying Light, also the GTA games, but they're kind of an exception. I'll talk about that in a moment. But it's games that have utilized the sandbox genre of gaming, which is create a big, ginormous open world and put a bunch of content inside that world, but kind of forsake the storyline, the characters, the development that goes on in that, to just basically say, hey, go over there and do this thing. Go over there and do that thing. Also, Fallout and even the Elder Scrolls games, in my opinion, from what little I've played of something like Skyrim or Oblivion, they also are susceptible to this too. It's not like some of these games aren't really critically acclaimed and wildly popular. I'm not just picking the franchises that are overdone and beaten, like a dead horse. I'm talking about stuff that people think is amazing, stuff that people are, hate the annual regurgitation. And this is a thing too, like, I like the Fallout games. I like the Far Cry games. I like Assassin's Creed games. And I love the GTA games. But they all have kind of turned their back on telling a story, but not just telling a story, because, a book can tell a story. But, take you on that journey. Take you to different lands. Take you to learn about and interact with different people and stories, countries, nations, whatever, tribes, whatever it may be. Some examples to me of games that take you on the story. Well, a lot of RPGs, especially Japanese RPGs, people may say that the stories are crazy as fuck in those games, and they are in some ways. I'm playing Final Fantasy VII again right now, and it's weird, it's all over the place. But that game literally takes you all across this planet to all these different places. And you learn stuff about all the different characters, and you learn about the climate and the politics of that world. A game like Xenogears is deep in that. A lot of my favorite PS1 role-playing games, FF7, Xenogears, Grandia, Legend of Legaia, the Lunar games, the other Final Fantasies 8 and 9, And then, of course, into the PS2 era on some of my favorite PS2 RPGs, from Star Ocean Until the End of Time to Radiata Stories. But even games like, I was thinking about this the other day, Mercenaries, Playground of Destruction. It takes you on an interesting journey, and it's a beginning of a sandbox-style game, taking you all over the place to do these things. And these games of newer time, like I said, the Far Cry games and Assassin's Creed, sandbox games that just put you in the world and tell you to go collect something and go do this. My Fallout 3 experience, that was, as much as I enjoyed the game, the experience was a huge disappointment, because you could complete that game really, really quickly. I finished it in like 29 hours, and I had barely touched any of the extra stuff. And I just watched a speed run of that the other day where a guy beat it in just under 15 minutes. Of course, there was some glitching involved. But if you didn't glitch and you did the storyline to it, I bet you could beat that game in 10 hours or less. And that's what's disappointing, because that's not much story. It told you kind of what's going on, and it told you about this guy and his dad and helping the world and the people in it in what you did, but it didn't take you on that epic journey. And I think a game like Siphon Filter or the early Tomb Raider games take you on an incredible journey. And maybe they do it, maybe it works for them because they take you to multiple locales. And maybe that first one, I think it was the Last Revelation, that kind of kept you all in one area, maybe that kind of took away from that experience. But those first like 2 or 3 Tomb Raider games were amazing. And even the more recent one works in that way for me, but it is self-contained in sort of one area. Maybe that's what the problem is to me. Open world are like sandbox style games. That was what I thought was the pinnacle of gaming 20 years ago. I was like, wow, the first time they'll be able to make just a huge world that you can just wander around in and get lost in and do nothing if you want to. I thought that would be amazing. But now I'm realizing that if you forsake the journey, if you forsake learning about the characters that are a part of your group, like in an RPG, or learning about the world that you're in and the levels that you take on in a game. If you're, say, in a single player action game like Tomb Raider, or even if like your survival horror games, or as much as I loved Batman Arkham Asylum, even though it took place in one big area, it gave you so much story, and it had you going and doing all these things that weren't just like throwaway. They took you on that journey. And I just think that that's missing so much. A lot of these PS4 games that I've bought will be fun, and I will enjoy my time playing around in their sandbox, but they're not going to be the memorable experiences that I used to have on old PS1 games, old Super Nintendo games, from Super Metroid to Zelda to all those beautiful RPGs from that time frame. And all those games in the PS1 where people were trying so hard to work around the technical limitations that they had to bring you something epic and glorious. And I just think that that's missing from a lot of stuff nowadays. And that's a real shame. And it reinforces what I've said for a while now, that after I'm done with the PS4 and everything that it's going to have to offer, I'm just going to be done with new consoles and new games, because they've lost it. It's all corporate. It's all make a game, give them something to do for 10 hours, 50 hours, 200 hours, make them feel like they got their money's worth, so they'll come back and buy our next game. The soul of gaming is it's waning, it's dying. It'll never be completely gone, because there will always still be companies out there that will make these games that do it in that way for me. But most of these companies are going to be making games for that other side of it, which is just, I want to play an online game and I want to get everything that I can out of it before I jump to the next thing. The consumers that are consuming it and who aren't savoring it. I'm saying that because I don't want people who watch this to be like, You know, if they like a Call of Duty experience or whatever, and it's doing it for them, great. And there will always be that for you. But there's a whole bunch of us out here that are like me, who want to take that journey and who want to have that epic quest, whether it's an RPG, whether it's military related, whether it's sports related. That may sound weird, but sports games, in my opinion, can do it. A wrestling game can take you on a journey through the life of a wrestler. And I just think that that's an art that's going away, and a lot of us are going to be, like I said, left behind because of it. Thank goodness I have so many old games that I haven't played and old favorites that I can go back and play. And I'll have something for the rest of my life to fill that void. I'm just sad to see that it's a lost art, so to speak. So anyway, that's my dumb philosophical look on those things. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you in the next video. I have a couple other video things that I want to do, like at least one really big topic that kind of touches on what I just talked about. So look for that in the near future, and we'll see you then.